Introduce our speaker today, Kent Stroman. Stroman and Associates, author of a couple books, Asking About Asking and The Intentional Board. And you threw me off a little bit with year-end strategy topic in January, but that's what we're going to be talking about. So I'm going to go ahead and hand it off to you and let you take over.
So I'd love for us to start off with some response in the chat box. So if your fingers aren't already limbered up, do some exercise real quick. So here's the question I'd love to hear everybody's response to. 1 month ago is December 13th. Actually, there were only 18 days remaining in calendar 2025. So 1 month ago today, what were you stressing over? What were you doing? Real quick in the chat box. And let's see. Aaron, I think you've got a bigger screen than I do. Would you mind just sharing those responses as they come through?
I don't mind at all. So I won't attach names to the answers, but money was the first one that came in.
Wait. Somebody was thinking about money?
Yeah. Second one, year-end giving. Third one, fundraising. Fourth one, wondering if this end of year was going to meet at least the levels of last year. So comparing this year and last year. Too many competing messages, 2 donors from multiple campaigns. I don't think you're the only one. And so it seems like there's a consensus around money. The other one, money / filling our beds in the new home.
Okay.
So
as a follow-up, and as I listen to those words, it immediately makes me wonder about feelings. How did that feel? If you could kind of condense that all down into like a 1 or 2 word emotion. How were you feeling?
So we have a frazzled, anxious, stressful. I put in anxious for one of my clients, overwhelmed, sleepless nights.
Ooh. As I listen to this, it doesn't sound like it's very fun to be a fundraiser in December. Is that fair? So, and thank you everybody for your responses, because it's those very thoughts, actions, feelings, and concerns that prompted us to schedule this now and address a topic that is probably more relevant today than it was a month ago, but we're less focused on it today than we were then. And so just to kind of validate what we were seeing and feeling, I'm going to share some comments from an AP Associated Press article that came out on December 27th. So the year wasn't even over yet, but here was the headline. Poll, most aren't making year-end donations. Now, again, just real quick, when you hear that headline, what does that do to your head? Anybody want to just voice a comment or a reaction? I mean, I'm reading this in the newspaper, 27th of December, most aren't making year-end year-end donations. What do you think about that headline?
I'm not sure you want to know my response.
Shelley, I always want to know your response. Come on.
It stays.
Whoops, you just went mute.
I said it stays in the thought bubble, but it sure is stressful.
Yeah, for sure. Anybody else just kind of
I feel like it's stirring up issues that may not be real. We had one of our best Decembers ever, and yet I'm worried. I'm telling the board, like, oh, we might not make it, and then I sound like I don't know what I'm talking about because I'm reading the news.
So, Amy, did you just say that from a fundraising standpoint, one of your best Decembers ever?
Our second best after COVID. And we're Meals on Wheels, so
Okay.
COVID, we did really well.
Okay. I'm going to step aside. Amy, can you just kind of take over?
Yeah, you got it. So, no. Just lucked out.
Yeah. Well, here's when I was in college, this is not very recent, but when I was in college, I took a course in probability and statistics. And one of our assigned reading was a very small book titled How to Lie with Statistics. And it explains all of the ads you've ever seen. And I don't like the title, but the content is really real stuff. And there are lots of facts that are easily misconstrued and intentionally misconstrued. Well, so here's the poll. Most aren't making year-end decisions. Most never have made year-end donations. So that's really not news. And then here was the subtitle. Many nonprofits rely on donation surges to reach budget targets. Well, that's true, and that's not news. Okay. And then the first line in, again, this is Associated Press, most Americans aren't making end-of-year charitable giving plans. And then it makes reference to this poll. But when we're in this work and these messages are coming at us, it's just adding to the anxiety and making us feel like, what we're doing isn't enough and it's not making a difference. And here's another part of this article. Few give on Giving Tuesday. Now, I'm going to add some comments, but let me just share my bias. I'm not a big fan of Giving Tuesday. And there are a lot of reasons for that. Throughout the sector, we end up with a lot of activity going to either not producing any results or just shifting the date when somebody gives. So it makes it look like that all of our effort was worthwhile. But here's the headline. Few donate on Giving Tuesday. That's not news. But here's the thing. And I don't know if you follow the research, but last year's Giving Tuesday, I believe, set a new record at total giving estimated at $4 billion. And then here's another, they talk about one person's process for year-end donations. And this guy's name is Chuck Dietrich. Dietrich estimates that their household donated somewhere between $501 and $2,500. That's a really significant range, don't you think? I mean, it's fivefold. The range is fivefold from bottom to top. So again, it's a statistic, it's somewhat accurate, but ultimately what all that zeroes into, and the reason I bring that up today is all of that language is stressed around this thing that's called average. What is your average donation? And I have long held the belief that average is an insignificant point between two significant points. So who cares what average donors are doing, and who cares what average organizations are doing? At Stroman and Associates, the work that we get to do, a lot of it with you guys, we're not defined by average. In fact, the very essence of why we do what we do is to be not average. And that's one of the things that I love. I'm not going to go too much further than this, but Shelley, you remember the date on that article I just told you, December 27th? Our conversations that day had nothing to do with average, right? We were talking about historic giving, a one with a whole bunch of zeros behind it, right? And so none of us want to live in average land, and so that's why we're doing what we want to do today. And so later on, when we wrap up, we're going to give everybody an opportunity to share what's one takeaway, one thing that you heard today that you can put to use. Hopefully it's something to do, but even if it's what not to do, We want to hear your takeaway, what was really meaningful. So um, here's a tip. I'm going to give you just a handful of tips. And maybe the most significant is to shift your focus on year-end giving. Shift your focus now. It's January 13th. Care if people give more than caring about when they give. So I'm curious, as far as your fiscal year for your organization, how many of you have a fiscal year that starts on January 1st, ends on December 31st? Just show of hands. Okay, a few, hands down. Anybody have a July 1, June 30 fiscal year? Oh, you do, but you don't want to admit it. Which, personally and professionally, if I could pick one for everybody, I'd pick that one. And if we want to, sometime we can talk about that. Who has a fiscal year that's in the September-October range? Okay. So if you think about it, ultimately, if somebody's going to give you a gift that you would consider significant, I'm going to just talk about let's say a $25,000 donation. Well, again, show of hands. Would anybody on today's call, would you do a happy dance if you got a $25,000 gift? Okay, would anybody mind illustrating? Amy's in right there. Okay, Aaron's going to raise you up. Stephanie, dancing and driving at the same time. Are you kidding me? That's awesome. So, $25,000 gift. Now, I'm not talking to any CFOs. Is that right? Okay. So, for a minute, if you set aside the cash flow pressures, which they're always with us, right? If somebody's going to give your organization $25,000 this year, do you really care when it is? Day one, day 365, someplace in the middle? Seriously, do you care enough about that to interrupt the fact of the gift itself? No, and so if we can work all year long with more concern around whether people give than when they give, here's what it does. It takes the time pressure off of others. And so I was going to say this a little bit later, but I'm just going to go ahead and throw it in now. Time is the fundraiser's friend if we let it work for us. Because for donors, more time always equals more money. If I show up, I got to have money today. You got to fork it over. I mean, how many of you use that language? Fork over your money. Hopefully nobody, right? But the message comes through whether we use the words or not. If we got to have the money right now and it's a crisis, and if you don't do this thing, something terrible is going to happen and we'll never recover for it, and we think that urgency and that burden on givers is going to make them do something and feel good about it, it might make them do something, but think about this concept that you can raise money with a crisis one time. And if you wanted to convert your givers into one-time givers, lead with crisis. However, if we let time work for us, time is the fundraiser's friend, let it work for us and give donors more time, because we know that more time equals more money. So how do we do that? Cultivate and solicit gift commitments, i.e. pledges, for 9 months. So from January 1, we're 13 days into it already, from January 1 to September 30th, your work should be focused on cultivating and soliciting gift commitments, because we know people are going to want to give in December. Okay, let them make that decision way, way early, someplace between January 1 and September 30th. So that's your first 9 months of the year. And then for October, anybody remember October? So October starts the day after September and it ends on Halloween. For that 1 month, I want to encourage you to dedicate your time to strategizing for 2027. And then you've got 60 days at the end of the year. It's called November and December. So between Halloween and New Year's Day, spend your time thanking and reminding donors. If they've made a pledge for 2026 and they haven't completed the gift yet, call them and thank them for their commitment and remind them where they stand. Pledge $25,000. I've given 20. Wanted to make you aware as you make your year-end giving decisions. So a reminder, the reminder language and the reminder tone is dramatically different than the panicked solicitor. Got to give, got to give, got to give, got to give. Okay. And for the people who've already made the decision, you're taking pressure off of them. You're not calling and begging. Now, what do you do with that person who in January you cultivated, in February you solicited, in March they made a $25,000 commitment, and let's say they gave it in April, they gave $25,000. In November and December, don't do nothing. Call back and thank them. Share with them the impact of their gift. The gift that you've already given has accomplished X. And as we come to the end of the year, if you're in a position where you may be able to give, we'd be so appreciative and would be able to do more of that X thing, whatever it was. And so anyhow, just the very tone in that is dramatically different than what we usually, I've got my quota. We're not going to make our budget. And that's very real to you, but I'll tell you, it's not motivating to other people. In fact, it tends to be quite the contrary. There was an organization that I was really close to, and they were approaching the end of their fiscal year. And I got this very well-written letter that said, here's what our budget is. I mean, that was their case statement was budget. Here's what our budget is, and we haven't raised this. And if we don't raise this, we're not going to make our budget. Now, I might have been a bit cynical for a moment, but based on what they were writing, the simplest solution was just reduce your budget. I mean, there wasn't any why behind it. And so it was presented as an arbitrary number that made the fundraiser panic and that makes the fund givers want to run the other direction. Now, let Pareto's law guide your focus. Anybody know Pareto's law? It must be a really old principle. So I think the guy's name was Valpreso Pareto. I think he was an Italian economist or statistician. Anyhow, here's what he discovered, that 80% of the results come from 20% of the effort. Okay, the 80-20 rule, that's Pareto's law. But here's the thing, in 2026, it's not 80-20 anymore in fundraising. It's 95-5. For most organizations, 95% of the dollars come from about 5% of the donors. And I don't care whether it's 85-5 or 95-5 or 80-20. Here's the profound reality. A whole bunch of money comes from not very many people. And a whole bunch of people give smaller amounts. And by the way, it takes all of it for us to succeed. But in your work, your primary focus needs to be on that smaller number of larger givers, because they are the ones whose gift is going to move the needle the most. And so, Amy, I don't even know if you remember this, we had this great board retreat on Friday afternoon. Remember that? But one of the things that I asked Amy's CEO in that board retreat, in front of the board, I asked the question, are we affording our fundraising staff the luxury of enough time that donors can be as generous as they want to? Now, unless I'm remembering it wrong, Amy, I think you smiled and nodded vigorously when I asked that.
That I was getting enough time, or that I was happy you were asking that?
I guess I could have interpreted that wrong. Yeah. But so how does it matter if we have the luxury of time so that donors don't have to be pressured by time when we make our request for larger gifts? And so one way we can do that is, we talked about an annual cycle. Frankly, my preference professionally isn't just a 12-month period, but 36. Ideally, we should be asking donors what impact they want to make over the next 3 years, and then invite them to make those gifts wherever and however and whenever. If somebody wants to give us $1 million over 3 years, how are you going to respond? Just make your chin go up and down like that and smile. Yes, thank you. And if they want to give us, ideally, if they want to give us $1 million today and nothing the next 2 years, will you accept it? Yes. What if they want to give you $333,333.33 on January 13th today, and it's the same thing next 2 years? Yes. And if they want to give us zero this year, zero next year, and all of the third year, I want to say yes for all of it. Because when we have that longer timeline, it allows us to spend less time soliciting and more time stewarding. And if there's any anxiety, it's not around stewarding, it's around soliciting. So we are 26 minutes into our 47-minute webinar, and in a little bit we're going to before we wrap up, we're going to share a closing quote. We're going to give everybody an opportunity also to share their number one takeaway. But let's just take a minute or two. If somebody has comments, questions, thoughts, do you want to share around the idea of make plans now to take the chaos out of the fourth quarter? What do you think? What do you say? What do you wonder?
To take the
One at a time,
chaos,
please.
to take the chaos out of it.
Yeah.
Honestly, part of that's part of the fun for me. I mean, I know that sounds weird. I know that sounds weird, but I mean, I feel like it's a good chaos. I mean, if it's a good chaos versus the stressful, anxious, frazzled, overwhelmed, sleepless nights here. But, I mean, I think the part of the chaos is fun of it, and that's the excitement of it. And it's, when things do come in, or when you ask, or whatever the case may be. I mean, I think there's two different parts of chaos, if that makes any sense.
Yeah. Well, and if it's the enjoyable part for the fundraiser, and if it's the invigorating part for the donor, by all means, yeah. Somebody else? Thoughts, comments, questions?
I got cut off, guys.
You get cut off?
No,
I'll throw out a comment and let you either agree, disagree, or modify it. But I think part of the concept here is I know a lot of people on our call have either small teams or they're solo teams when it comes to staffing. And part of the concept is not necessarily neglecting our general givers. And a lot of times we have so many of those that, I mean, there was still $4 billion given on Giving Tuesday, and end of year, it is, I mean, you can look at it as, society has been trained to give gifts at the end of the year and on Giving Tuesday. and probably many of us have email campaigns and direct mail campaigns that do raise money. So I would say it's not to neglect that, but for you who have limited time and attention, to be focusing year long on the bigger picture, that 20% that's going to raise the 80% of our budget, stewarding those relationships, and then still keep with your process, but not giving 100% of your focus in October, November, December on an email and direct mail campaign, but doing what you suggested, calling, thanking people, giving reminders, status updates of what you've pledged, where we are. Would you agree with that? Disagree with that?
And Aaron, you're asking the question to
Our webinar leader, America's Asking Coach.
Yes, yeah. Again, I think it's a matter really of focus and pace. And the thing that I desire for those of us in the fundraising profession is that that we don't find ourselves in that position where we feel like the value of our work and the measure of our worth is all zeroed in on what somebody else does or doesn't do in the waning moments of the year, and that we can enjoy the ride. Whether we want to enjoy the feeling of coasting or whether we feel the enjoyment of the roller coaster, that it's not debilitating for us.
Let me dive into that a little deeper, because part of me thinks this should be, it was titled year-end giving for 2028 instead of 2026. For any organizations on the call that don't have strategic goals looking out that far, what's like maybe step one or step two to start getting the organization to that level so our fundraising focus can match it?
Yeah, good question. And again, I'm kind of looking to Amy because I know one of the things that we're looking at very recently is that long-term strategic plan. What are those strategic goals for the next 3 years? And again, the organizationally, we encourage our organizations to have a price tag. What's the price tag for our success for the next 3 years? Not just this week, this month, or even this year, but that longer perspective, so we can invite givers again into that longer equation, and take the panic off of their desk. That usually we're the ones that's placing it on their desk. So, Aaron, I think we had. I know. Was there another slide that we had for this next phase as we kind of move towards our wrap up? Okay, yeah, the Asking Academy. Hey, if I know we've got a few people on the call who have experienced the Asking Academy, if this year's budget for you, if it has room for more revenue, we should be talking. One of the things that we really focus on in the Asking Academy is that equipping volunteers and professionals in successfully cultivating and soliciting that small number of really large gifts. And on the screen, you can see fundraising that doesn't feel so hard. If that's something you feel like might be helpful for your organization or team, reach out to Aaron or me. Love to chat with you further. And then on the board topic, you've got the nonprofit guy who happens to be in the boardroom. If you feel like it could be a useful boost in your board, helping to distinguish between what is the work of governance and what's not governance. Again, touch base with Aaron. Let him bring a boost to your own board, inside your own boardroom. So anyway, I want to open that up now. Real quick, in the chat box, what is one tip that you could say, something you can take away from today that you can either put to use now or in the near future, something that can elevate your fundraising results? And let's see, let's give everybody a chance to give their own response, and we'll share. And by the way, Stephanie, if you're still driving and it's easier to voice than to type, feel free.
I'm actually back in the office, so I'm good.
Oh, yay. So, top takeaway. Who wants to go first?
They're dropping in the chat. Brandon said, I like the idea of playing the long game, 3-year strategy. Cultivating donors takes time.
Boy, isn't that the truth?
Shelly said, don't let tomorrow's worries take away from today's celebrations.
Well, and I'm kind of with Amy on that, when she was talking about our board and talking about, what you read, and Giving Tuesday supposedly wasn't as good as it's been in the past. And then Amy talked about that they had one of their best years ever. And it's one of those things that don't worry about what you read in the papers or online or whatever the case may be, because that might not even have anything to do with your stress or worries when you do have one of your best years yet. So you kind of have to go with what's for your organization, your celebrations.
Mm-hmm. Well said.
Amy wrote in the chat, we are backwards and make most of our dollars from annual campaign and are still budgeting for our major donor program. A great reminder to keep that up and move annual campaign to staff. Tyler said impact over 36 months versus 12 equals less soliciting. And Tyler, I remember now, I think we connected at the nonprofit school, I believe.
Yes, we did.
I didn't catch that when I first saw it. I thought your name looked familiar, but now I'm like, oh yeah, that's how I know Tyler.
No worries. I thought the same thing at first. It took me a couple minutes, but yeah, I put it. Yeah, nice to put a face to the name.
Yes, likewise.
And by the way, Aaron, would you spell that, since school is a little different?
Yeah, SKOOL. There's the school communities, and we have we've kind of moved our free resources and content to school.com. So if you're curious in that, feel free to drop me a message. Actually, just write school in the notes, and I'll send you a link if you want to connect there. SKOOL. Stephanie said, I love the idea of strategic planning for immediate funding while also concentrating on the longer term plan for the next 3 years. And Reagan said, working in animal welfare every day is some type of crisis, which I believe that. So it's a good reminder that real money comes from strategy versus emotional crisis. Yes, yes, yes. And then Robert said, I like playing the long game. It produces the largest gifts, which that is true.
Wow, some really good takeaways. And if there are other ways that we can help support, be a part of your success, please feel free to reach out.
I came late, Kent. Is there a recording here for this?
Yeah, we'll record it and put it on YouTube, and I can send you the link so you get the whole thing.
Yeah, I'm sorry I was late, but it sounds like a great conversation.
Well, glad you came, Robert.
Yeah.
Sure, Kent.
Let's see. Aaron, we've got a closing quote. Anything else we need to touch base on before we wrap up?
Yeah, let me just give a little preview of next month's webinar. It's going to be featuring Preston Bowman. He's with Stone Creek Consulting, but he is a certified story brand guide. And he actually sent me a text message right before this webinar with a different different title. So our topic next month is going to be a communication formula that reaches the heart of donors. And so if you aren't using story in your conversational fundraising, it will be a great workshop to be at, because you'll walk away with a template on how to create story. And you might even be able to do it live on the call, but story communicates. If I were to quote Kent Stroman, stories store and numbers numb. And so it'll be a fantastic way to refresh your storytelling for fundraising.
Can you say that out loud on our next call, Kent? Just between us.
It's so true, but it hurts my heart as a recovering accountant. The idea is that numbers numb, but it's true, and stories store. Yeah, so Preston's really good. You guys will enjoy it. February 10th, if you don't already have that on your calendar, please add it. And if there's somebody that you want to join you, send them the LinkedIn link to the 47-minute webinar. Love to have you then. So as we wrap up, you guys ready? Is it possible to do a 47-minute webinar in 41 minutes? I think we're going to do it today. Give people back 6 minutes of their lives. So here it is, closing quote. We always find what we're looking for or less. So look for gifts from the top of your gift chart down. Every gift matters, every gift counts. And sometimes when we're looking for a big one, we find one that's not as big. Celebrate all the wins. And with that, we want to wish you every success. Thanks for making our morning productive. And I hope it's done the same for you.